the table, although she kept silent for a while. She smiled at him whenever she caught his eyes. She was not angry, not even hurt. Philip had always been so difficult, but in the end so easily led. She had unlimited confidence in herself. "Don't be a goose!" she exclaimed at last. "Of course you want your reward, and of course you'll have it some day. You've always lived with your head partly in the clouds, and it's always been my task to pull you down to earth. I suppose I shall have to do the same again, but tonight I haven't patience. I feel suddenly gay. You are so nice-looking, Philip, but you'd look 10 times nicer still if you'd only smile once or twice and look as though you were glad." The whole thing was a nightmare to him. The horror of it was in his blood, yet he did his best to obey. Plain speaking just then was impossible. He drank glass after glass of wine and called for liqueurs. She held his fingers for a moment under the table. "Oh, Philip," she whispered, "can't you forget that you have ever been a school teacher, dear? We are only human and did suffer so. You know," she went on, "you were made for the things that are coming to us. You've improved already ever so much. I like your clothes and the way you carry yourself. But you look, oh, so sad and so far away all the time. When I came to your rooms at my first glance of you, I knew you were miserable. We must alter all that, dear. Tell me how it is that with all your success you haven't been happy." "Memories," he answered harshly. "Only a few hours before you came I was in hell." "Then you had better make up your mind," she told him firmly, "that you are going to climb up out of there, and when you're out, you're going to stay out. You can't alter the past. You can't alter even the smallest detail of its setting. Just as inevitably as our lives come and go, so what has happened is finished with, unchangeable. It is only a weak person who would spoil the present and the future brooding. You used not to be weak, Philip." "I don't think that I am, really," he said. "I am moody, though, and that's almost as bad. The sight of you brought it all back. That fellow Dane. I've been frightened of him, Beatrice." "Well, you needn't be any longer," she declared. "What you want is someone with you all the time who understands you, someone to drive back those other thoughts when they come to worry you. It is really a very good thing for you, dear, that I came out to New York. Mr. Dane is going to be very disappointed when I tell him that I never saw you before in my life. Don't you love the music? Listen to that waltz. That was written for happy people, Philip. I adore this place. I suppose we shall find others we like better as time goes on, but I shall always think of this evening. It is the beginning of my task too, Philip, with you, for you. What has really happened, dear? I can't realize anything. I feel as though the gates of some great prison had been thrown wide open, and everything there to long for in life was just there, within reach, waiting. I am glad, much gladder than I should have imagined possible. It's wonderful to have you again. I didn't feel that I missed you so much, but I know now what it was that made life so appalling. Tell me, am I still nice to look at?" "Of course you are," he assured her. Can't you understand that by the way people notice you?" She strummed upon the table with her fingers. Her whole body seemed to be moving to the music. She nodded several times. "I don't want them to notice me, Philip," she murmured. "I want you to look, just for a moment, as though you thought me the only person in the world, as you did once, you know." He did his best to be responsive, but was not wholly successful. Nevertheless, she was tolerant with his shortcomings. They sat there until nearly 3 o'clock. It was she at last who rose reluctantly to her feet. "I want to go whilst the memory of it all is wonderful," she declared. "Come, here's a card with my address on. Drive me home now, please." He paid his bill, and they found a cab. She linked her arm through his. Her head sank a little upon his shoulder. He made no movement. She waited for a moment. Then she leaned back amongst the cushions. "Philip," she asked quietly, "has this Elizabeth Dalstan been letting you make love to her?" "Please don't speak of Miss Dalstan like that," he begged. "Answer my question," she insisted. "Miss Dalstan has been very kind to me," he admitted slowly. "Wonderfully kind. If you really want to know, I do care for her." "More than you did for me?" "Very much more," he answered bravely, "and in a different fashion." In the darkness of the cab it seemed to him that her face had grown whiter. Her arm remained within his, but it clasped him no longer. Her body seemed to have become limp. Even her voice, firm though it was, seemed pitched in a different key. "Listen," she said. "You will have to forget Miss Dalstan. I have made up my mind what I want in life, and I am going to have it. I shall draw my money tomorrow, and afterwards I shall come straight to your rooms. Then we will talk. I want more than just that money. I am lonely. And do you know, Philip, I believe that I must have cared for you all the time, and that you must have cared for me a little, or you would never have done that for my sake. You must, and you shall care, Philip, because our time has come. And I want you. Please, shall I have to say it, dear? I want you to marry me." He wrenched himself free of her. "That is quite out of the question, Beatrice," he declared. She laughed at him mockingly. "Oh, don't say that, Philip. You might tempt me to be brutal. You might tempt me to say horribly plain words to you." "Speak them and have done with it," he told her roughly. "I might find a few, too." "I am past hurting," she replied, "and I am not the least afraid of anything you could say. You robbed me of the man who was bringing me to America, who would have married me some day, I suppose. Well, you must pay, do you see, and in my way. I have told you the way I choose." "You want me to marry you?" he demanded. "Simply marry you? You do not care whether I have any love for you, or whether I loathe you now?" "You couldn't loathe me, could you?" she begged. "The thought of those long days we spent together in our prison house would rise up and forbid it. Kiss me." "I will not." Her lips